Okay, let's talk about pricing. This is the second P. Now, pricing, the first question you're gonna ask yourself when defining the price for your product, um, my product is in which category, with which products, with which companies my product is competing. In other words, when the customer will choose product A or my product, are they actually comparable? What is the price for the product A? Okay. Now you need to make sure that your pricing strategy is competitive. Okay. So if you're trying to sell more or less the same product as the company A's product, then the price that you're trying to charge should be comparable, if not cheaper. Okay. Now the reason why I'm saying buying ability, it's about the audience that you're trying to sell. So if your product is meant to be high quality, with high ability customers, then therefore you need to highlight that, and you need to say that this is premium segment customer, this is premium segment product. Okay. Now, value for money is obviously something quite subjective, but nevertheless, customers actually do make decisions. And when they make a decision, okay, you're positioning the perception of the product, the quality, divided by the price should be high. So customers, in other words, customers want more things, more value with a cheaper price, with a lower price. That's why branding and the positioning of your brand is so much important, especially if you're trying to say that you are a fancy brand, you are a high quality premium brand, then obviously the image of this brand should be perfect. And obviously the product that you're trying to sell should meet the brand. Otherwise, people won't buy it for the second time, and you will just announce to everyone your incompetency. Okay, so obviously when you're trying to deliver the premium and building the premium brand, then therefore your product should also meet the premium things. Okay, now there might be some several objectives when you're entering the new market. Okay, you may actually think about some lower prices because people do not have enough trust to your brand yet, and maybe that's why you want to compensate that by a lower price. Increasing market share. Now, also, if you do remember, revenue is equal to sales volume times price. In this case, in order to stimulate the higher sales, the higher volume, trying to have more sales, you may actually do some discounts and lower the prices temporarily. Okay, not all the time. Increasing profit is about maximizing the revenue, maximizing the profit. So it's about keeping the high prices sometimes. It's inevitable. It's very interesting, but sometimes people buy some things, especially it's true for luxurious brands, because it's expensive. Not because it's cheap, but it's expensive and unaffordable. If you think about the pricing of Rolls-Royce, for example, this is about $500,000, well, slightly less, $400,000 maybe. In tenge, it's going to be 180 million tenge. It's Rolls-Royce. Now, if you're driving a Rolls-Royce, if you're owning the Rolls-Royce, it actually means something. So in this case, a higher price and expensiveness could actually be your differentiation point. Very surprisingly, but sometimes it works like that. Now, sometimes the pricing can be, especially when you're just launching your product, can be made just in order to break even. So in the first 3 to 6 months of your startup, okay, of your company, you may actually want to break even and build some bridges with your customers, and then trying to increase your profit. So at the beginning, you may want just to break even. Now, methods. we're going to talk about several methods of pricing. The first one is very simple. It's called cost plus pricing. Now, you should calculate all the costs. Okay, let me give you an example. So the total cost of 2,000 chocolates is $2,000. We know that industry usually has 50% profit margin. So therefore, you may want to calculate your cost per chocolate, which is $1, and then add 50%, which is $0.50, and this is going to be $1.5 of your pricing. This is just called cost plus pricing. Competitive pricing is about being similar to your competitors. And in this case, you have to answer yourself very, very clearly, who are your competitors? With whom you're competing to get the customer, okay? Because if you're in an educational center, let's say, it doesn't mean that every single educational center is going to be your competitor. It doesn't mean that. There are some a bit expensive educational centers, a bit low and a bit cheaper educational centers. And obviously there are different companies that are trying to sell different products. Psychological pricing, 99% status, as I give you an example with the Rolls-Royce. Bugatti Chiron is quite expensive car. It's just limited series of this car. Sometimes even if you do want to buy this car, it may not be available. Okay, so it's not only about whether you have the money, it's just not available all the time. Now, Chanel never has discounts. So the first question that comes to your mind, what if you do have some surplus, some unused or unsold products? Do you know what do they do? They burn it. So Chanel never has discounts. They don't want to break the image of luxurious brand. Therefore, they will never have a discount. And I do not actually personally in favor of this, but they're burning the goods. Penetration pricing, I'm sure you've heard about damping, when a big company with high economies of scale, with the high abilities to buy, they actually damp. So normally the price would be 100 tenge, but they will come and say no, it's 90, in order to get rid of the smaller competitors. Damping and penetration pricing is sometimes used. Okay, now all these things are also good to know, like promotional pricing and price skimming. I'm gonna explain you what the dynamic pricing is. Now, it's the dynamic pricing is extensively used in airline companies, hotel businesses. Okay, so sometimes, as you can see from the picture, actually these people are flying from point A to point B, all of them. But surprisingly, some of them may have the same ticket in the same class for a much cheaper price, and sometimes for a much more expensive price. And this is about dynamic pricing. So if there's a very high demand, then in this case the price goes up. When the demand goes down, then the price goes down as well. This is how it happens in the airline companies. Now, let me give you a very interesting example with the price elasticity. Now, price elasticity is when you actually play around with the pricing and the volumes. Now, usually when the price goes down, people tend to buy more because it's cheaper, or when it goes up, people tend to buy less, usually. So if you do remember, there was a bakery example in seminar number 1. So Ardax Bakery. So it used to be 600 tenge. Now the study revealed that when the price goes up by 20%, the sales volume will drop, but by 10%. So therefore, the next task is to calculate what is going to be the net new profit given that the prices went up by 20%. Now, we do know that price times quantity is equal to revenue. So the new price is going to be 720 because it has increased by 20%. Okay, 720. But the volume has dropped down. So it's no longer 1,000 units, but 900 units. So the new revenue is equal to this one. The cost actually changed. The cost per unit didn't change, but the cost overall changed because you're now selling and producing less units. So it's 180,000. So therefore, the new profit per month is going to be equal to this value compared to the old one. So sometimes increasing the prices can be a better option. Sometimes decreasing the prices could be a better option as well. But you have to look at how the price increase and demand decrease will correlate with each other, and make sure that the new scenario will bring you more money. Okay, promotion. Promotion objectives is the first one, as I told you before. It's about building an awareness that you exist, that your product exists. Okay, create interest and trigger purchasing behavior. So it's not, you should not say that we do exist, but you should say, hey, would you like to buy it? I can give you this, I can do this, I can do this one better, why don't you buy it? So there should be a very clear message to buy this particular product. Call to buy, okay? Stimulate demand. Occasional special deals. Differentiation, the product, as we said, unique selling point, if it's a very competitive area. Reinforce the brand. Now, it's not just enough to say once. You have to say it from time to time, again and again. Okay, there are different types of advertisement. Please download the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation, and look at these advertisements. I'm gonna give you the links here. These two advertisements are very different from each other, and we're actually here giving you two types of advertisement. The first one is informative, where iPhone 11, for example, Pro, where it says that it's better and giving the facts. It relies on facts. However, the emotional one, it doesn't rely on the fact, but it appeals to the consumer's emotions. And Range Rover Sport, in this case, is a good example of persuasive advertisement. So please watch the videos at your own time. Now, I'd like to actually talk more about online advertisement media, because TV, outdoor, radio, print, and mobile, they're being used, and sometimes they are convenient, but the most efficient one so far seems to be the online. Now, guess why the Facebook and Instagram? Well, Instagram is owned by Facebook, are so much, they're so rich. Why the capitalization of these companies is so high? Because these guys can do a targeted advertisement. In fact, the largest revenue coming to the Facebook companies actually comes from the advertisement. Google does a lot of money from targeting advertisement. So online advertisement these days is more efficient, is relatively cheaper, okay, and very popular. Okay, now there can be some different ways of promoting, of trying to stimulate the next purchase. It's a price reduction, some gifts, buy one and get one for free, competitions, concourse in this case, free samples, especially if it's a food one, if it's from food industry. and it's a new product, then let the people try it. After sales service, like in Porsche. So there are different means of promotion, and there isn't like one correct and one way of doing that. It's like an art. Marketing is about art plus a very factual approach as well. So it's a combination between a solid factual basis plus art, because you have to be very creative at the same time. But you can't be just creative and not calculate, do not analyze, do not evaluate. You should do both. Okay, so marketing is tricky, but companies do pay a lot of attention to marketing, and usually salespeople are the ones who are getting the most one of the highest salaries in the company, because they are in charge of sales. And believe me, in every single company, sales is the most important thing. Because if you can't sell it commercially, you're not going to be successful. Okay, guys, so the place, I'm going to finish in 2-3 minutes. Now, there are different means of channels. There are different means of distributing. Okay. Now, distribution channel 1 is when the producer directly sells it to the consumer. The second one, when it happens via a retailer. And the third option here is when the producer, especially if it's a big one, it doesn't sell even to one retailer, but it sells to the wholesaler, which then sells to many retailers, and these retailers sell them to the consumer. I'm going to show it. So can you see that? If you have manufacturers like this, they may actually sell to many retailers at the same time, or they may actually sell it to the big one wholesaler, and then the wholesaler will take care of further distributing it to the smaller retailers, and then retailer will further take care of selling it to the final end users. Okay, now e-commerce is a very popular one, is very evolving. In fact, Amazon is one of the largest and one of the richest and wealthiest companies. The guy who actually founded the Amazon, Jeff Bezos, is the wealthiest person in the world, in the globe. Alibaba and so on. There are tons of examples when e-commerce actually becomes a very successful company. Okay, so that's it for today. Please look at the textbook and see you next time.